today's massive news. Izak Rankine has been handed a 4-week ban by the AFL, offered a 5-week provisional ban on Tuesday night. The footy club has been able to argue it down. Now, my understanding is that Adelaide's submission detailed not only the club's fears for his mental health, but also specific circumstances dating back to Gold Coast and his medical treatment there, and how that potentially instructed his response. Now, they are aware that that will be seen to be playing the mental health card, but they spoke about specific and very complex aspects of his diagnosis that could potentially have triggered his response in uttering that slur. Now, Andrew Dillon, the AFL CEO, tonight said he's adamant that he's not a double standard. The fact that Snoop Dogg will be performing at the grand final after his history of homophobic lyrics. So Rankine takes some time away from the football club over the weekend, then will return to apologise to the AFLW and AFL team. Now, Adelaide, of course, has to lose the first final, then play the next 2 finals and win them for him to be available, but there is a glimmer of hope. And Adelaide quietly confident tonight that Josh Rosselli will be available for that qualifying final. So a very complex situation here, but he has been able to argue it from 5 down to 4. What's your thoughts about that penalty and the specifics of it, and of course the mental health aspect of it as well?
A massive story, isn't it, Jason? It's taken a long time for the AFL to get to this, given that we knew the basics of the case very early on in the week. What's your read on the situation?
I'm about as confused as I could possibly be. I regard myself as at least a semi-intelligent man. I don't know how compelling medical evidence gets you from 5 weeks down to 4. And if we're talking about mental health, by what measurement scale are we saying that equates to 1 week? I don't understand. I'm confused. Can someone explain it to me?
When you say you're semi-intelligent, I get nervous straight away because that downscales the rest of us. I don't think there is an easy answer, Jace.
You've got to come out and give more context so we can understand it, surely.
Yeah, it's taken a long time to get to this point, so maybe it's been swallowed up in the round starting. Who knows?
Joey, in a football sense, so he's only available for the grand final if they make it, if they happen to go the long way and lose that first qualifying final at Adelaide Oval. Can they win the flag without him or get there without him?
Well, they can, but it's going to be much more difficult because he's their second best player. I think Jordan Dawson's their best player. He's their second best, and he's probably the X factor and the spark that you need in finals. So it's going to be awfully difficult. Of course, they still can, but the rest of the group are going to have to rally and find ways to lift because it's going to be more of a challenge.
I need to go back to Ralphie. So correct me if I'm wrong, Ralphie, but it was Jack Graham that self-reported, which got him from 5 weeks down to 4. Otherwise, it's been a standard 5 weeks for this infringement. So how do we align a week off the suspension with compelling medical evidence? Can you explain that, please?
So what Adelaide would say is that there were certain triggers in regards to this, that he was triggered because of being knocked out by Dan Houston last year. That was one of the factors. They would say that it's not just the mental health card, and they would believe that it's not setting a worrying precedent. I think maybe that's what worries you. Any player who is now suspended, whether it's 4 or 6 or 8 weeks, says, look, I'm battling with my mental health and I wonder what this might do for me, and so give me a discount on that penalty. They would say that there are very specific incidences here, and of course they need to respect his confidentiality, and so there are potentially things in his past there that have instructed what he's done here. Do you worry, Jason, about that precedent, though, that every player now in a situation where they might miss a final says, OK, my mental health will be impacted, I need a discount?
Well, we're going to see all sorts of things come up, but the problem is we don't get it properly explained to us. So there are triggers. Because he got knocked out last time, that's a trigger that you can... And I'm not having a go at Izak Rankine, I'm having a go at this case and the way it's gone from 5 weeks to 4 weeks based on supposed compelling medical evidence, and we're hearing there are triggers that prompted a response. I just don't get it. And I can't comprehend how the fact that he got knocked out last time they played has anything to do with it.
Does the AFL's leadership take a hit in light of this, given that it seems to be a negotiated penalty, that it's taken them a long time to get here, that it seems to have been going back and forward when there's an argument to say, well, he said it, these are the other cases, and just that's what the penalty is?
The issue is they're not idiots at AFL House either. I've got great respect for Andrew Dillon. He's a smart man, as are the people around him. But we're not getting all the information. We're just expected to take this at blind faith and say they've made the right decision. We can't do that because it doesn't make sense without all the relevant facts to understand why they've decided to give a week off, to give him hope, perhaps, of playing in the grand final.
But if it's a medical situation, Jace, you're not going to get all the facts.
But hang on a minute. How can you sit there and say medical equals 1 week?
I don't understand. But once the medical side of it's involved, you're not going to get all the relevant information.
Well, it's been the biggest story of the week. Crows superstar Izak Rankine found guilty of a highly offensive homophobic slur and given a 4-game ban from the AFL. It does keep alive a grand final dream if he can have a bit of a finals miracle, but it has certainly been a hot topic as we welcome Jon Ralph from the newsroom. What is the latest here? There's been some really strong stands taken by people in the AFL community about the AFL's handling of this issue.
No doubt. So if you're going to hand Izak Rankine a discount, 5 weeks down to 4, literally the difference between potentially playing in a grand final and not, you damn well better explain it properly, and the AFL has not done that. A vague description of a compelling medical submission has not cut it with the AFL world. Tony Shaw labelled it incompetent, amateurish and laughable. Our own Gerard Whateley, a disappointing moment from a disappointing administration. Former AFLW player Kate McCarthy does not look like zero tolerance, which of course the AFL has pushed with that message. So as we detailed in the pre-match, our Adelaide submission was based around Izak's pre-existing mental health issues, medical issues, which they did document through detailed submissions. Jason, the AFL is making a massive precedent here of accepting a mental health defence, but they're not explaining it properly. And I think that's what you were so strong about in the pre-match. If you're going to explain it, give it to us in chapter and verse. If not, just say this is 4 weeks, we're not going to explain it, and we move on.
It's difficult, isn't it? A lot of people are finding it hard to move on. I think they're as confused as I was. It's almost like, I don't know the right way to say it, they're almost a victim of their own wokeness. They don't want to offend anyone. They want to take every issue, every condition, and I would never downplay mental health by any stretch of the imagination. But rules are rules. And it doesn't matter if you transgress, you have to cop the punishment. But they don't want to offend anyone, and in doing so, they've offended everybody.
Yeah, so
it would appear.
Joey, 42% of the Australian population has had some mental health issues, and so we're working so hard as an AFL industry to try and enhance the care of those people. So has this got the potential to do the opposite there? Because you'd imagine anyone else in this situation now will potentially use those mental health grounds.
Well, that's where maybe they're creating a rod for their own back, the AFL, because it is confusing, it is vague, and what it's doing, it's leaving it open for interpretation on what these mental health grounds are. And I mean, he might have genuine grounds for medically and mental health issues, but we don't know about it. So it's making it really hard, and no one's got any sympathy for Izak Rankine at the moment, and probably rightly so, for what he said. So it is a challenge for the AFL. It's going to be interesting to see how this plays out down the track when there are similar situations, if people believe now that you can negotiate an outcome with the AFL.
So Josh Rachele now closing in on a qualifying final entrance after his knee capsule issue. Izak will take the weekend off and then come back and apologise to the entire AFL team at AFL and AFLW team at Adelaide.
The fallout continues, and certainly the fallout for this AFL administration over their handling of this issue.